Oh man, that ending, guys! All the Boruto haters, where are they? Like the ones who do the 2-episode in 1 combo videos and don't actually really like Boruto, but they just follow it to copy double 4. This episode had its good, bad, and ugly parts, but by the end they wrapped it all together and you're at the very least interested, right? Shizuma Hoshigaki killing off, I believe he killed him off, alright? I don't know. He could have just devastated them and they're just there on the ground, but maybe if they get taken to a hospital, they'll be alright. Do you guys even want these punks to live? I'm gonna be honest, they're cannon fodder, they could go. But this dude is a savage, and not in a good way, because, you know, we oftentimes use the word savage in a good way to describe someone who's like really cool and has amazing abilities, but that's not the actual original definition of savage. It's like an animal, just a straight up monster. And that's what this guy is. He's messed up in the head. And to be honest with you, there's something about Kagura that is so fishy. Like, now he's requesting to get Chojiro's sword, the Mizukage sword, Hiramekarai, after he's proven himself, even with the flashbacks, right? Like, the flashbacks proved that he's just kind of like unstable, right? But even if you take the flashbacks out, he was very stressed in multiple circumstances in this episode. He's gonna be wielding this sword. I don't know, man. Something is fishy. Like, I personally, as, you know, the Mizukage, if I were Chojiro, I would say, I would need to see you more and more in combat, and you need to prove that you are stable enough to wield this weapon. Unless, of course, it's just, Chojiro is just an idiot. Because it's like, granted, I understand Kagura has a lot of potential, he's powerful, in fact, the flashbacks that showed how much of a savage he is also proved how skilled he was at a young age. Basically, all these bodies on the floor with blood everywhere, hell yeah. But what are you doing as Chojiro? As the Mizukage, selecting someone who's unstable like that? Even if they're powerful. Like, Chojiro doesn't think at all. And some of his comments during the conference also raised an eyebrow, saying that, you know, this new generation, they're all cowards, they're all weaklings, because there wasn't that constant stress and tension. Okay, cool, you made those comments, but now you're about to select some dude who, you know, literally bloodied up all of his classmates and who's shaking at the thought of holding a sword. You're seriously thinking about making this guy the Mizukage, giving him a sword like that, these responsibilities? Something seems very fishy. Hold the phone. I don't know, Chojiro must be on crack. I don't think Kagura's a bad person. I mean, he seems lonely, right? Why else, when he's playing cards with Boruto, Shikadai, Denki, all of them, that he's forgetting about all of his problems, and you can see even the look and the expressions on his face change. Listen, you know you're lonely when, like, you feel down all the time, right? And then time just suddenly flies by, and it passes, and you're in this motion. Like, human beings are very social creatures. We don't like to admit it. But sometimes when we're around people, like, we might not realize this when we're alone, but when we're around people, it's a totally different feeling. I feel like this episode proved that Kagura's alone most of the time. He's a lonely kid. And you see, when you're lonely and you've got these instabilities, oh man, that's a bad combination, because next thing you know, he's on the battlefield, he loses control like that piece of shit at the beginning of the episode, Tsurushi Hachiya, who possibly was killed by the end of the episode. Like, whoa, right, hold the phone. He said that when Kagura draws his sword, he just loses control. And throughout the episode, it felt like Kagura was trying to hide something. Now, he eventually told a story about, of course, his past and how he became the person he is today, all those bodies on the floor. In fact, Mitsuki called him out and said, like, you and Hachiya, you guys are kind of friends, right? And this dude denied it. He said that Hachiya went down the wrong path and he started hanging around bad kids who influenced him to believe that his village is supposed to be this bloody hell. Whereas he himself, being classmates with this guy, eventually strayed in another direction. He realized that his actions were wrong, or he was just traumatized. It's either or, right? But listen, man, you're always going to have sympathies for people, even if they're messed up in the head, when you knew them as kids. So I've got a feeling that this dude, you know, Kagura, he's got some non-Hidden Leaf Village sympathies. He's got some sympathies with some cruel, sick people. Maybe not intentionally, but unintentionally, and it's his softness that's going to lead to more suffering. Like, for instance, the loss of someone else in the Hidden Leaf Village, or even in the Hidden Mist Village. There might be some major battles, like we saw in that opening, right? We might indeed see a repeat of what happened to Iwabe's grandfather against Yagura, right? One of the previous Mizukages. It might be Shizuma Hoshigaki, it might be Kagura, it might be someone else we haven't seen in this arc, but there's going to be blood in the Blood Mist Village once again. Now, we get a conference with the previous Mizukage, and, like, I know she's a previous Mizukage, and she's not currently in office, but it feels like they're purposely trying to make her irrelevant. Like, dang, you're going to have her set up in a meeting with Shino and Anko? Like, I'm not even trying to meet Shino and Anko. Like, if I was in the Naruto universe and someone said, like, I had to be on time to meet Shino and Anko, I might oversleep for that meeting. I'm just going to be honest with you. So, the fact that they're having her talk to, you know, Shino and Anko about, you know, relations between these big giant lands and the feudal lords and the countries and how there's, like, more to profit out of the instability, I'm just like, whoa, you know, this conversation is a great one to have, for sure. But wrong people. I feel like Naruto probably dodged that meeting like a bullet. Like, he was supposed to have an appointment with her, and he's just like, listen, Shino, Anko, you guys do your thing. I mean, I was more focused if Meitarumi was going to make a sexual advancement toward Shino than anything to do with any resolution that those two are going to come to. And I know that sounds negative, and I know they're in charge of this mission, don't get me wrong, but it's like they're not even talking about the mission. They're just talking about relations between, like, the land of water and the land of fire, like feudal lords. Like, this goes a level beyond Shino. I mean, Shino had to use one of his students' powers to body other kids. Like, he couldn't body any of these kids himself. He had to use Sumida's powers. He was taken over, he did some damage, but in the end, he still lost. Mei, on the other hand, we've seen her fight. She's fought Akatsuki-level shinobi, and she could probably hold her own against one, maybe two. Now, the beginning of the episode, I personally enjoyed it as a fan, but I understand where people are complaining. They think maybe the animation could have been better. They maybe think that it could have been a little bit darker, maybe a little less censorship, right? And ultimately, it's Denki getting kidnapped. Like, do any of us really care, honestly, about Denki? As of this point in Boruto, I have yet to see any Denki fans in the comments. Like, anytime I make a comment clowning Denki, I don't see anybody in the comment section defending him, and it's kind of sad. People don't care about Denki like they don't care about Chocho, and I think that's because people weren't expecting this character to even exist, nor last this long in the series. Again, by Boruto Naruto the movie, he wasn't in the movie, so he should be gone, right? Maybe he could have died in that fire with Iwabe. So I get it, it's rescue Denki, but you have to at the very least admit they gave a lot of characters spotlight in those scenes, and there were some pretty solid moments, like Hachiya versus Kagura there with that wooden sword. This dude has a real sword, and he still gets him, right? His sword skills shun through, and then we've got Iwabe with the straight jack to the face. And then you've got Boruto, who got caught by one of these thugs, one of these punks. He was getting choked there, and then he uses wind release to break the hold. And that's another thing, like, I gotta give props to Boruto for standing out a bit, because if he would have just come up with some Rasengan and, like, I would have felt like that's just unoriginal, it's been done before, but the fact that he came through with a unique wind release jutsu, breaking himself out of that hold, I really like that as well. And then you've got Mitsuki there working these guys like nothing. I mean, he could have taken them all out, probably Hoshigaki clan member included, right? He would have ran through all of these guys. I think he's holding back, and I think, honestly, he shouldn't even be on this mission because he's already like Jonin level. He has the Sage mode, keep in mind. It was nice to see everyone get spotlight, from Inojin, Shikadai, to Boruto, to Mitsuki. Everybody got some shine, and I like that. And I think by the end, this sets up for a pretty interesting arc. Again, that opening screams some really entertaining stuff we have yet to see. There were a little contradictions, like, you know, Mizukage there claiming that the Hidden Mist Village wants peace. Like, just because you and, you know, your posse are in Naruto Circle and y'all are about peace, maybe even more of your generation's about peace, because you guys were the generation right after this really messed up generation, don't mean everybody in your village agrees with that. It's kind of like Obama getting elected and, you know, race relations are perfect now. Like, no, race relations aren't perfect. So I'd like to see them take stuff a little bit more seriously, but as a whole, from an enjoyment standpoint, really loved it, guys.